Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is my review of Alien 3 from 1992. So, it's a weird phenomenon I've noticed over the decades of being into geek stuff, is that some things you're kind of allowed to have your own opinion on. Like, you can like Jurassic Park movies or not. Any one of them. You can just choose. I like this one, I don't. And then there's some movies like you have to like them and people freak out, or you have to hate them and people freak out if you. And I was like, I thought the whole thing about geek is like it's like your own subculture to just like what you want, and you shouldn't be forced to like or dislike anything. But it hasn't really been like that. So Alien 3 came out, and you were basically ordered to not like it. And for 2 decades, like anytime you had to talk about it, you were expected, because I hate it so much. Weirdly enough, and I think the pandemic has a lot to do with this, all of a sudden, all these movies that have been reviled for decades, now everyone's like, oh, it has a lot of good points to it. So Alien 3 was now it might be kind of obvious to people who watch the movies, but if you don't, because a lot of movies, they do like soft reboots, or they have time travel and stuff like that. But the Alien movies basically go from, follow one character linearly, at least the first four do. And so it's, Ripley has an adventure, goes into cryosleep, wakes up, other adventure, goes into cryosleep, or gets cloned. So this one takes place. Now, when I watched it, I just assumed it was like years after the last movie, but I was just reading some trivia, and it's supposedly supposed to, like, the problems happened like right into cryosleep. So there's a fire on the Sulaco. It ejects the worst life pods I've ever seen. Escape pods. These escape pods seem designed to kill you. Like, first of all, it just lands it just crashes into the frickin' planet, and like it's not aerodynamic. It doesn't have parachutes. It doesn't seem to have like jets or anything. It just freaking crashes. It's like, instead of dying in space, would you like to crash into the nearest planet? So Ripley survives. Hicks and Newt do not. This was the corporal and the young girl from Aliens. So this was a huge problem back in the day. They're like, well, it undoes the entire movie. It makes everything a waste of time. It's like, well, except for like the last 5 minutes of the fourth movie, there isn't really any happiness. Everyone gets killed, and then you get into a ship that has like a face hugger hidden inside it or something like that. So it's annoying. And I remember, especially back then, I don't even think I had seen the previous two movies all the way through, not edited for like broadcast television. That was how it was back in the day, unless you were, quote, rich and had HBO, which meant you were slightly upper middle class. But still, it's weird that when people talk about things being bad, things are amazing right now economically, and they have been for like the last 8 years. Like, in the 70s and 80s, like, the economies were not good. I know they kind of make it like the 80s were like super, booming, but they were like okay for a couple years at the end before going into another recession. So you would catch, the edited for mainstream television version, and you would catch the last 20 minutes, and you'd be like, oh, that was cool. And then 6 months later, in the middle of a Saturday afternoon, you would catch the middle to the end, and then a year later, you would see all of it. And I still don't think I had seen all of the first two movies when I saw the third one. So the thing about Alien 3 was that it was, quote, my movie. It was the first, Alien movie that I saw in the theater. So I was really excited, and I was really disappointed. And now I'm watching it, and I was saying, what besides social pressure and, some characters being killed in a movie I hadn't even seen all of, what made it disappointing? So I just rewatched it yesterday, and I watched the whole thing within like 24 hours, which is progress for me. And I find it to be amazing. Then I went and reread all the interviews I had read a million times before, all the hirings and the firings and 20 different scripts, and David Fincher hated it, and he edited it for a year, and they took him off of it, and he got, like, this movie works. Like, it's kind of awesome. So they have a point of view. She gets sent down to a prison planet. We actually find out the prison was decommissioned the mining facility, or no, it was like a forge, was decommissioned, and it's just a skeleton crew of basically not even maintenance guys. Like they're just like there so no one else claims the planet. Because the corporation, ALIEN³, was like, we're going to shut this down. And they're like, we'll stay. You know, you're probably going to sell this stuff for scrap in a couple decades. Yeah, fine, whatever. So they've formed this kind of religion of their own. And that's a concept I found very interesting. And, you know, part of their religion is to be celibate. So a woman crashes there, and it's a bunch of felons who have not only found religion, but founded their own religion. So Ripley is, you know, she's just a problem. By the way, this is almost another video, but name a better character than Ellen Ripley. I'm not talking about women. I'm not talking about feminist icons. I'm not talking about sci-fi. I'm talking about in like Western fiction. Name a better character than Ellen Ripley. Now you might be like, well, and then you're like, I can't. Ellen Ripley, even on 4 different movies by 4 different directors, 4 very different directors, bunch, you know, although they had Walter Hill and David Giler, and they were overseeing stuff, but you know, studio input. This is one of the best characters ever in you know, consistency, acting, writing. In some ways, it feels like all of these were written in one piece. Performance is amazing, and it's one of those quiet things. I just started watching ALIEN³, which will be my next video, and it's so interesting how she's introduced. It's just at a group setting, you know, of people eating a meal, and she's not, you know, emphasized at all. I know that was the big, you know, trick of the first one, that the minor character ended up becoming the lead, but for such an amazing character, she had a very humble introduction. So this is Ripley, who has been through the events of the previous 2 movies and all the nightmares and hypersleep, you know, in between. And so she comes there and she's just fully formed. She's like, yeah, there's an alien, we got to kill it. There's an alien inside of me, we got to kill me. And then just this awesome movie happens. One of the things I love about this is it looks great. Now, I did this joke in another video about the Cameron constant. And the Cameron constant, that's something I created, is once you take a franchise and you introduce Space Marines, people don't ever want there to not be Space Marines. So it's really stripped down. It's a prison. They have no weapons. They have a couple of axes for fires. That's it. It's one alien. It's an okay alien. One of the things I'm really noticing with the Aliens movies is the aliens are only scary when Ridley Scott directs. It's weird, like they're not even scary. They're just interesting. They're like, oh, practical effect. That's a costume. That's a puppet. Oh, they actually have some 3D in a 1992 movie. I kind of forgot how much 3D, you know, CGI they would use. So CGI is not great, but it's okay. It's a nice design. It's a xenomorph that grows from a dog instead of a human. It looks a little different. Fundamentally, pretty much the same. But it just works. Now, this is the thing. Now, I'm sure a million other geeks have pointed this out. I didn't realize it till I started watching Alien, 1 right after I finished Alien 3. So I watched 2, 4, 3, and then 1. And this is for the Aliens movies. I'm not talking about the prequels with Prometheus. And I will rewatch those as well. But check it out. This is awesome. So this is what's brilliant. You have a sci-fi franchise in which each movie is a different genre. Alien is a horror movie. Aliens is a war movie. Alien 3 is a drama. Alien Resurrection, Alien 4, is an action comedy. I find that to be brilliant. The situation is a very stripped down future prison that basically has almost no technology. And Ripley trying to discover if she is infected, and then trying to figure out a way to kill the xenomorph. She doesn't need to kill the xenomorph to save the prisoners, who are pretty scummy and no one would really miss them. But is that ALIEN³ gets every time. There's a great thing where she uses they call it a neuroscanner in the death pod she was sent down in, and she scans herself and it shows it, and then later it says, uploaded to the network. So then Weyland-Yutani is like sending a message or like, yeah, we're coming down to get our property. So she's got to kill the xenomorph, although I think it has a different name for people who are really experts in this franchise. Not to save lives, but to stop the xenomorph from being captured and being turned into a bioweapon. And then she's got to kill herself. There's also an interesting thing where the xenomorph, I'm just going to call it the alien because I think this one is not a xenomorph. I think they have all these different kind of like morph names. When it gets up to her, it smells that she's pregnant. She's pregnant with a queen, so it doesn't attack her. So it's this kind of cool thing where... So eventually, through a lot of plot machinations that oddly work really well. I will say one thing. You can tell the editing and the chopping and the reshoots because at the end, there's a bunch of characters suddenly having dialogue that had like no dialogue in the first hour. Like when you're like, wait, Pete Postlethwaite is in this movie and he just like sits at freaking like lunch tables and he doesn't say anything. And then all of a sudden they're like, you're kind of, oh, this is this guy and he has this personality and this guy likes this guy and they're friends, but this guy doesn't like this other guy. Like, that kind of feels like first hour stuff. And that's where you notice it. But then they have a fairly simple but good, plan to use the tunnels leading from the prison area to the work area, which was like a lead forge, smelting whatever, and that part works and it's fun and well, I don't know, it's fun, it's exciting, and yeah, the thing just works. I mean, one of the things that's really great is it's an Ellen Ripley like off-Broadway play, off-Earth, off-Broadway play. It is just so focused on Ripley, and you just, I mean, it's not even just focused on like her and the character and the performance. She has a very drab, prison garb. She has her head shaved, and it's just her face. It's just her face and her performance, and it's great. It's an Ellen Ripley focused movie, especially since this is the official goodbye. She sacrifices herself. Yeah, she gets cloned, but they make a point that that's a distinctly different being with a different personality and everything else. Even just the way she stands in Alien, it's a different person. But I found this to be fantastic. Is it flawed? Yeah, it does have some flaws, mainly in characters being not developed in the first hour, and then you're supposed to know their names. Or like, oh, Dixon and Patton went down service corridor B. It's like, okay, it's a bunch of bald British white guys. I can't tell any of these people apart. They all look like boiled potatoes. But it works. It's very human and interesting and sad and emotional. And then, we get to see Bishop's creator come back. I remember thinking that was really cool because Bishop was, in the weird piecemeal way that I watched Aliens, I actually thought that Bishop was more of a character than he was, because all the little bits and pieces I would always see were the Bishop scenes. So it was like, Bishop! And then you watch the whole movie, you're like, oh, geez, Bishop's in like 15 minutes of Aliens. But he has a nice death scene, and then, the evil corporate version of him. We do get to see some Weyland security types who have pretty cool uniforms, but they're not Space Marines. I would have thought, I mean, it would have been nice. And, it would have been awesome to see a movie with Hicks and Newt, and supposedly it was going to be, I guess they were having trouble getting Sigourney Weaver to sign a contract, so it was going to be Hicks and Newt on an Earth that was infested. I mean, I would have liked to see that. And then people tell me there was like a ton of Dark Horse comics with that plot, and they said they were pretty solid. Obviously now they're not in continuity, but they're still good, fun books. Oh geez, Marvel just got the rights to Dark Horse and Aliens franchises. They're gonna screw that up so much. Oh my gosh. So anyway, yeah, it's a recommend. It's definitely a recommend, and it's really integral. If you've seen the first two, but you've always heard that the third one is so terrible, it's not. It's quite good in almost all of it. It's borderline brilliant in some areas, and then other places you can see the studio meddling and the reshoots and the multiple drafts of the script. But you notice that at the end, where most likely you're probably going to be already emotionally invested. It also, you know, it has to do with watching this on streaming. You know, and back in the day, it was your whole afternoon or evening to go see that movie. You might see a couple movies a year. That's how it used to be. The average family would see like 3 movies a year. So if you went there and it wasn't what you expected, you would just be really angry. But now, whatever. It's on. What did I see this on? HBO, whatever the HBO thing that connects to my Amazon Prime Video. It's fine. So Alien 3. Thanks for watching. Bye.